Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Video Ferox, where we find ourselves neck deep in Thesis Month, where we bring you the movies that reflect the core values of Video Ferox. Tonight, we're bringing you the criminally underrated Josie and the Pussycats. No, come back. Don't click away. Watch the episode and find out why this thing is fucking amazing.
For every band, there is a moment when they know they have made it. For one band, this is not that moment.
Thank you guys. You're a great crowd.
Okay, girls, we need the lane now. And your shoes.
They were three small-town girls with big-time dreams.
Who's a rock star? I am.
Who wanted to share their music with the world.
We can't sit around here waiting for it to happen. We are musicians. We should be out there playing music. We do play.
Nobody believed in them.
You suck.
But they believed in themselves.
We're special.
Yeah, special ed.
Now, in a world of tough competition,
And that is so sad.
fate is giving the Pussycats the chance of a lifetime.
We'd love for you to sign with Mega Records.
How am I gonna pull this off? I'm a girl from Riverdale. I'm not a rock star.
You gotta believe in yourself.
Things are finally going their way. But between the mania...
Is that Josie?
They're gonna be huge!
The managers...
We decide everything. What's hot and what's not.
Welcome to your party.
Who else thinks that Fiona's a freak?
and the media.
We're gonna be on TRL?
This may be the toughest gig they've ever played.
Have you noticed that everything has sort of become all about Josie?
Josie.
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 Spin around.
I made you a rock star. Tell me you don't love that. Forget it.
You know, I never liked you.
No matter what happens, we will always be friends first.
Are you gonna kill me with the guitar?
You messed with the wrong pussycat.
My bad.
Josie and the Pussycats.
Alrighty, welcome back from the trailer to Josie and the Pussycats. Now, the reason that I picked Josie and the Pussycats for Thesis Month is that this is a movie that got largely ignored at the box office. It flopped. If you go look at the reviews on like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, it's very tepid. This movie gets overlooked an awful lot. And the thing is, this movie is totally fucking jerkin'.
It is. It is a surprisingly good film that I fell in love with it. I totally dig this movie, which is weird because I didn't like the comic book much. I don't remember reading it. I barely watched the cartoon.
That's pretty much the same boat I'm in. I never read the comics, and I only passingly watched the cartoon because it was on, and I watched everything on Saturday mornings.
I know I watched the cartoon because when I watched this film, I remembered one of the songs as being from the cartoon. But that's all I remember. Then this came out, and I ignored it. I glossed it over. I never watched it in the theater. And then you hipped me to it, and I was like, this movie's amazing.
In fact, here, let's play out the exact conversation that I have had with Teresa and with Ian and with everybody I have shown this movie to. Brad, let's watch Josie and the Pussycats.
2 hours later.
This movie is awesome. Oh my God, I love this movie.
And that's why we're focusing the spotlight on Josie and the Pussycats today, because I want to share with you, this movie is fucking awesome.
It is. It kind of blew my mind. It's just so over the top, weird and quirky, and yet at the same time, it's jerking. I mean, it really
Jerkin is the only word I got for the thing. So why don't we just unleash the spoilers? Spoilers from this point on, folks. All right, so this movie is, this is not the first time you're going to hear me say this. This movie is amazingly clever. And we're talking like Spinal Tap, amazingly clever.
It is, for starters, it is subversive as hell. It is one of the most subtle, yet simultaneously in-your-face movies I have ever seen. It is very, very counterculture, yet at the same time, it is simultaneously really corporate and really commercial. I mean, it's very deliberately designed that way, so you get a certain message.
And you know exactly what sort of movie you get in about the first 5 minutes from the opening scene. It opens at this airport where the boy band de jour, and they come rolling into their private jet. And it is total JFK, the Beatles landing in New York in 63. The crowd is going fucking bananas. And they come rolling in, and all of a sudden they break out into a quick impromptu song, and it's a song called Backdoor Lover. So they're talking about anal sex in a Josie and the Pussycats PG-13 movie. They get on the plane, and they, Alan Cummings.
Yep.
He is their manager. He is the bad guy of the piece, essentially. And, him and Parker Posey are the two villains.
And he's a brilliant villain, I might add.
Oh, he is an absolute, I mean, just this smarmy, cheesy, delicious. I can fucking eat him all day. So they get on the plane, and de jour has this little fight thing. They're like squabbling because boy bands squabble and whatnot. And then one of them points out, hey, wait a second, what? We were listening to the track on the new album, and I heard this sound going on in the background. What's going on with that? And Alan Cummings, he's like, I'll have an answer for that right away. Goes in the cockpit, and here's our first, really subtle gag.
Take the Chevy to the levee.
They grab parachutes and bail out of the plane. Fucking Ricky Valens in a teenage girl bubblegum pop movie. Oh, wait a minute, that wasn't Ricky Valens. Who was the Big Popper? It was La Bamba. Shit, I can't remember. De jour and their plane, they crash, and Alan Cummings and the pilot touch down in their with parachutes just outside Riverdale, gets on the phone and calls back to home base, we're going to need a new band. Pan over to the Riverdale welcome to sign. Cut to the opening credits where we meet Josie and the gang. And it's this montage of them just absolutely having fun over this really bubblegum pop. The music really slaps in this thing.
It's very good music overall. And mind you, a few of the pieces are, obviously done by somebody that knows what they're doing, and yet at the same time, it's all geared towards pop and rock and roll, and I have to admit, some of it is very formulaic. There's not a lot of innovation in it, but at the same time, all of the songs are fun.
Very, very earwormy. In fact, hang on a second, I have to, who the hell did the music on that thing? It was... I couldn't tell you this band to save my life, because if you get outside of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, I can't tell you shit about it. Kay Hanley of Letters to Cleo sang the lead vocals. The album was produced by Babyface, I guess some sort of rapper dude. The songs were written by Alan Dirts of the Counting Crows, Jane Windland of the Go-Go's, okay, them I know, and some guys from Fountains of Wayne. Okay, I have no idea who these people are, but it's really fucking good music.
I can say something about Babyface. He does a lot of writing for other artists and consistently cranks out good product. So I can't think of anybody that I know he's written for, but I know he's been involved with Paula Abdul at one point or another. I don't know whether they were an item or whether he was involved with her production or what, but I'm pretty sure there's a connection there. Either she helped him out or he helped her out. I don't really remember. But I do know he's involved in a lot of songwriting. So whenever I see him in the credits, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's got talent.
And then as the song winds down and as the credits wind down, they cut to the bowling alley. And they're like in the far back lane, and they're just like playing to this completely disinterested crowd. And the song wraps up, and then it's like, girls, we need the lane over the PA. And we need the shoes. Implying that, in fact, they had to rent the fucking shoes for their own goddamn gig.
And when they do the share out for the money, they basically have $5 a piece, which is also kind of funny because they had to get paid and then pay out for the shoes so they could walk around in the bowling alley without scuffing it up. Brilliant. In fact, I loved that particular scene. Also, they have to lug their instruments around. They've got no support, which is funny because they have a manager.
Yeah, they had the two Calbits from the cartoon and the comic book, and again, more subversion because later on, after Josie has leaped into stardom, and they're on their private jet and they're all heading to another gig, and they go over to their manager and the manager's sister, who has done fuck all this whole movie, and and he says,
I still don't understand why you're here.
I'm here because I was in the comic book.
What?
Nothing.
Fourth wall smashed like a motherfucker.
And she continues to do virtually nothing useful for the entire film until a little bit at the very end. It's so comical that she is a second banana but yeah, even the guy who is their manager is really ineffective. I mean, I get that he's a manager for a small town band in a small town, and none of them really know what they're doing. But at the same time, I think that maybe he would have maybe a little bit of a better idea of what the hell his job is supposed to be. And after Alan Cummings oozes his way in and takes over the management, he basically does nothing.
And so Alan Cummings is desperate for a new act to replace De Jure. And he's driving along, and Josie and the gang, they're busking on a street corner, and the cops come along and run them off. And so they're running across the street, escaping from the cops, and all of a sudden we get some Meatloaf, the only other song in the movie that I know beyond, this movie. And Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and they're holding up a sign as they're dismantling this set for another completely unrelated thing. The number one band in the world. He holds up this jewel case and has his epiphany and signs them on the spot.
Right from the get-go, Josie is a little suspicious of it because she's like, you haven't heard any of our music. And he's like, yes, but you're going to be great. And then later, they're doing all of the stuff in the big city, and they're getting makeup done, they're getting their hair done, they're getting new clothing done, and he sets them up in a studio, and they've got like brand new instruments, and they're still like, we haven't recorded anything.
I am very confused why their recording studio is a TARDIS.
I think those bubbles on the wall are partly to entertain Melody and partly for some sort of visual appeal, because I've never seen those sorts of things in any other recording studio anywhere.
I mean, it's probably just sound baffling, but I mean, it is a bunch of roundels from the TARDIS. So, whatever. Okay, fine.
But they're squishy. And Melody likes them.
So it turns out what is going on is that the big mega record label is trying to insert subliminal messages into the bands that they work with. But at the end of the movie, it turns out that the villains of the piece aren't doing it for world control or aren't doing it because they're working with the military, although the military is working with them. They're doing it because Parker Posey and Alan Cummings are ridiculously and self-conscious and have self-esteem issues. That's a nice touch. I thought that was like, oh, that's heartwarming.
One of the amazing things about this film is the complete over-the-top product placement. I mean, everywhere you look, there's an ad for something or another.
They've got a Target bullseyes everywhere. Melody, when she is in the shower, she's got this little French fry loofah from McDonald's, and like the shower curtain is McDonald's. Everything, everywhere, every surface is covered with product placement.
My favorite one was when they're at the aquarium and Josie and her boyfriend go off to have a little bit of a private moment together, and they're right by the beluga whale tank. There's a big Evian thing in the beluga whale tank on the other side of the space of water where the whales are swimming. And I'm just like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
You go in and read some reviews online about the movie, and they're like, oh my God, this product placement is so terrible and so onerous. That's the point. That's the joke. It's satire. It's satirical. It's trying to say, look at consumerism.
And some of the dialogue is brilliantly done to, grab your attention and drag it back to it again. Like the three fangirls and their, oh my God, orange is the new pink. And, they keep changing that particular line from different colors to different colors. And it's funny because at one point when we're seeing the merchandising people, they actually have two people sitting behind the desk and they're working on exactly what the next new color is going to be.
Parody movies are so very, very hard to get right. Oftentimes, the aeroplanes of the world and the Naked Guns of the world are so rare, and most of the time you get your what was it, that spate of disaster movies. They had superhero movie, disaster movie, that sort of thing. And this movie slots into the aeroplane and Naked Gun and Spinal Tap side of the equation so well.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Oh, like the O. Here's another one, the big O. This was brilliant, where they're talking after having met with Fiona, who is really nice and friendly and bubbly and vapid and creepy as all hell. They've gone, the three girls have gone off to talk about it, and Melody says, oh yeah, I got that too. It's like, when I was talking to her, I got this cold shiver down my spine, and she's leaning against an ice sculpture that's shaped like a big O because it's part of Fiona's name. And Valerie's like, well, yeah, that's because you're leaning on the O. And she's like, oh, yeah. And they continue their conversation, and they say, oh, it's not the big O, and I'm like...
The movie is essentially, oh God, what would be a good parallel? It's almost like if David Lynch decided to direct Spinal Tap, because there's weird scenes with like Fiona, she's trying to bond with the girls, and so she'll come in to where they're staying, and they're like, oh, let's have dinner, girls. Here, I brought dinner. And she has this plate with like one potato chip on it. It's like, oh, I'm such a pig. I can't eat all of this. What the fuck? Or there's moments like Later on, they're on the tour plane and they're flying somewhere, and Alan Cummings goes up into the cockpit and he comes in kind of a rush. And the pilot, he instantly jumps up, grabs a parachute, and Alan Cummings is like, no, we're fine, we're good. Like they've done this many, many times.
Yeah.
They've got a fucking Captain Tennille joke in a movie for teenage girls in 2001.
Or the other one that really got me was when Fiona is having the conversation with the representative from the Pentagon, and she finishes up a sentence and then turns away and adds something that he doesn't quite hear.
I said, these kids will never know what hit them, and then you said, and neither will you.
I did?
We all heard you.
Oh.
You just laughed again, didn't you?
Or the other bit where she is alone with Alan Cummings' character, and they're trying to do the maniacal evil laugh and failing miserably because none of them are convincing laughs at all.
And this movie is such a time capsule of its era because you've got they make a big plot point of, oh my God, you've got the movie phone guy. The movie phone guy wasn't relevant in 2001, let alone 2020. Or like the fight on the TMZ set. What the hell?
Yeah, with the two guys that were the hosts, one of whom is a black guy pretending to be
Carson Daly, yeah.
Carson Daly, and then Carson Daly himself. Or the other bit where that also involves Carson Daly, where they're fighting, and Carson Daly is fighting against Melody, and as they are fighting, they are hitting on each other, and
which was also funny because I think, well, at least according to some of the background material that I've read on the movie, that they were actually dating at the time.
Oh, that's even funnier. I didn't know that, but that is...
Don't take that at face value. That's only what I read on the internet. Who knows?
Oh, and then there's Alan Cummings with the phone conversations, where when he's telling Josie that her boyfriend canceled on meeting her, and he turns right there in the room and says stuff on the phone, setting up the message down at the front desk for her to listen to. I'm like, how does she not even notice this? He's doing it like right there.
I loved the love story that they had in this movie between Josie and Alan M., who is this complete non-character. He only shows up a couple of times, and this love story is 100% bolted on, including the resolution where he shows up at the big concert that Josie is having, where they've defeated the bad guys and they had their epiphany and they're just actually playing for fun. And he shows up and it's like, I love you! He guns up on stage and they have a quick moment and he goes off to the side, never to be seen ever again. This entire love story is completely tangential to the plot, has no effect, and it's 100% on purpose because you expect that sort of love story triangle to be in the movie. Again, they're playing the fucking parody angle on this thing.
They have the falling out between Josie and the other two girls, and it's just so ridiculously transparent in why the falling out is happening. I mean, part of it is because Josie has been listening to the subliminal messages on a demo tape that Alan Cummings wants her to listen to, and that's why she's doing it. And yet, at the same time, while the falling out happens really quickly, they have a resolution really quickly and get back together and are all buddies again.
So the story isn't necessarily the strongest because what it's doing, it's supporting the narrative of parody and satire and basically getting all the plot points into position so that it can mock the... And I think that's why the movie died, because essentially what the studio did was they took this, bubblegum pop Spinal Tap and they marketed it to teenagers and, tweens. The group that's not going to get this sort of satire.
No.
And to be fair, it came out in March of 2001 or spring of 2001. And a couple of months later, there was a little bit of a tonal shift in everything.
They really should have marketed it to an older audience, people that would have appreciated it for the satire. But the trouble is, the primary characters are not in the same age demographic as the market they should have catered this to.
The olds are going to be like, why do I want to see a Josie and the Pussycats movie? The kids are going to be like, take the Chevy to the levee. What? Smells like Teen Spirit. What?
Yeah, they're not going to get any of the more classical allusions.
Although, interestingly, here's a funny story. So, when I was writing my notes for the review, I jumped on YouTube and I went to find the soundtrack. And as I was scrolling through all the list of songs on the playlist, very down at the bottom, they had YouTube suggesting, well, if you like this, then you'd like these movies. So they had A Mighty Wind. Okay, that makes sense. They had Can't Hardly Wait. That's fine because it was made by the same guys. And then, weirdly enough, one of the suggestions was They Live. Now, if you think about it for a second, this movie is 100% They Live.
You're absolutely right.
That is fucking brilliant.
I never saw that connection before, but yeah, it totally is.
Okay, we can gush on about this movie for an hour easily, so we're just gonna cut it right here. You got any final thoughts on this thing?
I can kind of compare this to Buckaroo Banzai, which I remember when it came out. Weird, quirky, a fun movie. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Also another movie that face planted.
Yeah, and there were only a few demographic groups that actually liked this one. Practically everybody else didn't like it. Too weird, too out there. And yet, at the same time, Buckaroo Banzai has grown as a cult classic and has become very popular in movie rentals and reruns and so forth because there are a lot more people that like it now than liked it then. And I think Josie and the Pussycats is like that.
Jerkin.
Reid. Reid. Reid.
Don't let cold weather catch you unprepared. Let us check the antifreeze in your car.
Bye-bye, Mr. Movie Phone. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at, this one takes a lot of heat, but I think a lot of it's unfair. So that's why it's in Thesis Month. We're going to be watching the Jean-Claude Van Damme, Raul Julia movie, Street Fighter, the movie. I'll never do that again, sorry. Please drop us an email, thevideonastyproject@gmail.com, and, stay evil. Bye-bye.
We found that subliminal messages work much better in movies.
Josie and the Pussycats is the best movie ever.